hard and she never know I love her to escape. Bones are thrown, sticks and stones, just to let you validate your message to me. Oh, you know my beat is concrete. Just breathe, stay on my feet. You know my beat is concrete. Just breathe, stay on your feet.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Loaded HQ, the home of away days. And we're back, and it is a special. It's an FA Cup special. Never thought I'd be saying this, but we are in the FA Cup still. Yep, we are. Hopefully for a little bit longer after Saturday, but we are going to get down to that in just a second. First and foremost, a massive week for Loaded HQ. Some fantastic shows that we've had already. Last week we had the transfer show, episode 2. Last night, fantastic show with Kieran Maguire. If you haven't watched it yet, please hit YouTube, watch the show, like, subscribe. You know the drill. Okay, and more to come. So after away days tonight, we've got tomorrow we are back, episode 3, the fully loaded transfer show with Jordan Cronin, and lots to discuss. And hopefully, as you might be able to see in the picture, we'll be celebrating a new signing at that point. Let's wait and see. May even get a little bit of breaking news tonight. You never know. And also Monday, the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Casey will be joining us. Mr. In the Know will be talking all things Newcastle United and transfers as well. But we are here to talk FA Cup. And I'm so pleased to welcome in from the Under the Abbey podcast, Cambridge United fan, Jordan. Welcome in, Jordan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Hey, Pete. Hello, everyone tuning in. Thanks for having me. I'll be honest, when I saw in the inbox that Loaded Magazine were getting in touch, I thought it was a throwback to the mid-noughties lad mag, and I might be chatting to Lucy Pinder, but Pete, you're just as good looking. So yeah, thanks for having me.
I'll take that all day. I'll take that all day. And the Loaded Magazine from years ago, we are better. We are the Loaded 110%. But welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you, as I've already said, and we are going to look ahead to the game on Saturday where Cambridge United travel to St James's Park. But look, before we get into the game, as always, what I like to do is obviously talk to the opposition fan and just ask them how their season's gone so far, really. So you're currently in League One. How's your season faring so far?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag so far, actually. I think the first thing I would probably say is this time last year or last pre-season, no Cambridge fans at all were expecting us to be in League One. We had just hired a very inexperienced football coach into his first full-time permanent role. We'd spent the last sort of 5-6 seasons finishing in like the bottom 8 of League Two. We were a very averagely bad League Two team, and the promotion last year came as a massive surprise to everyone. I'm sure we'll touch on to why and how we got promoted later on, but kind of coming into this season, I think most United fans, Cambridge United fans, the expectation was if we could stay up by any means, you would just take it. You'd snap the hand off for it, and we were a little bit worried that by Christmas we might be properly in the relegation battle, or maybe even worse, maybe already be cut off. But at the time of speaking, we're a few places above the drop zone. I think we've got a cushion of about 6 points, something like that. And yeah, the season has been a real mixed bag, but the one common thread that's gone throughout it is just how competitive we've been in games that we've played, even when we've lost. And I think that has been such a encouraging thing, a refreshing thing. And our recent form hasn't been great. We drew on Monday against Portsmouth, but before that we had lost 5 in 7, which on paper sounds really bad, but it's kind of misleading because of those 7 games we had played, I think, 4 of the top 6. So it's the stats going into the game might be a little bit misleading for sort of Newcastle fans looking at the form table. But the season so far has been really, really encouraging. We're punching above our weight even being in League One, but so far we've proved that we're good enough to be in there. And I don't want to jinx anything, but hopefully we stay up this season. Some FA Cup money might help in January as well, so it all ties in.
Definitely. I 100% agree. I just put it on a second ago where you are in the League One table. So 16th at the moment, 6 wins, 9 draws, 9 defeats, 27 points. Like you said, if you weren't expecting to get promoted last season, the fact that you're there and you're, in a relatively comfortable position, that says that that you've had a really good start to the season. So fair play. Look, all the Newcastle fans will want to know: did you beat Sunderland when you played them? That's the kind of information we want to know. We're hoping for some good news, but your reaction tells me I got me.
Yeah, I was going to skim over the fact that in your screen grab of the league table, you can't see Sunderland in there. We played them a couple of weeks ago actually, and unfortunately we lost 2-1. It was a really, really peculiar game actually, because it was really, really windy, and it basically kind of nullified both teams, and it was just a case of who played with and against the wind the better. And Sunderland edged it, but it was pretty tight. And actually it kind of fell into that pattern of what I was mentioning before, that we've been losing quite a lot of games recently, but we've been really competitive in them, and we've been playing sort of the teams that are in the sort of top 6 of the table. And League One is a really peculiar league. I'm guessing most Newcastle fans don't look at the League One table that often, but it's an odd league. It's a league of real contrast. Like there's 6 or 7 former Prem teams in there, another 6 or 7 former Championship clubs in there. At the start of the season, you could easily list off about 10, 11 teams that would expect to be not even in the playoff picture, but going for automatic promotion because of their size, their crowd numbers and their budgets and so forth. So you've got 12 really big teams, and then you've got 12 other teams, and you've got like the likes of us and Morecambe and Cheltenham, who've got vastly different setups and stadiums and budgets. So it's a real league of contrasts. But we've done all right against some of those bigger teams, but we let you down against Sunderland, I'm afraid. But we've got them their last home game of the season, so maybe we can have a say in whether they go up automatically or not. So we'll try our best.
No problem at all. Don't worry, Jordan. As you've just said, you've got an opportunity to do us all a favour and take the 3 points off them the next time you play them. But it's great to see so many in the chat. See Julie, Liam, Derek's in the chat, Shane all the way from Australia. Absolute pleasure. Paul, Jordan Toon for life. So many regulars in the chat. Great to see you all. Okay, so you talked about the season so far, and it seems like you're doing really well, which is fantastic. Looking at the game on Saturday, okay, I think it's a big game. I think it's a big game for both teams, and I'll talk about why I think it's a big game for Newcastle. being honest, it's a big game for us because it's the first time in 14 years that we're going into an FA Cup with an ownership that actually wants to progress in the cup, that will actually take the cup seriously. We've had so many years of Mike Ashley telling his managers, to play weaker teams, to not take the cup seriously. It's not the end of the world if we go out, because his focus was on the Premier League and the Premier League money. So I think it's a big game for us because it's the first time in a new era that we're actually going there with an element of hope. I mean, we've played teams in and around yourself over the years, the likes of Rochdale and one or two others, and we've struggled against those teams because the fact that the players and the manager have been told not to take it seriously. So I think it's the first time we're going in there into a game just with a little bit of hope, for sure. But look, it's 52,000, and it's a sellout. Absolutely amazing, not just from the Newcastle fans, from the Cambridge fans that are travelling up. You've sold out your section. Do you know how many you're taking up altogether?
Yeah, I think it's 5,000. I'm not sure
Wow.
if we've completely sold out, but I think the club tweeted yesterday there's about 200 tickets left. So if it's not a sellout, it's very, very close to it. Yeah, it's an incredible turnout because obviously it's not the shortest of trips, and it's just such a weird one. Like, for such a long time, I've sort of thought to myself, well, I'm not actually going to be able to go to that game because of everything that's going on with Omicron and COVID and numbers and things like that. And it's only really sort of today and yesterday, sort of speaking to other sort of Newcastle fans as we planned this, that it kind of really sort of sunk in that actually, I am going to St. James's Park on Saturday. Was adamant that it wouldn't happen. So yeah, it would be really surreal being up there in the gods, as they say, and yeah, surrounded by 52,000 other people.
Definitely, it's you are up in the gods, right at the top. It is a hell of a walk to get up there. You feel like you've done a marathon by the time you get to the top, but it's a fantastic view when you're there. And it's great. It's great that the fans are going to be there in numbers. I think when you get when a tie like this comes about, it's so important for the away fans to be able to travel in this type of situation. But like I said, it's a full allocation, or very close to, from a Cambridge point of view. I'm sure it will be by Saturday. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. What's the feeling around the Cambridge fans about the kind of like you said, you've talked about your own personal feelings about being able to go to St. James's Park, but speaking to the Cambridge fans, what are their thoughts just about, firstly getting the tie away at Newcastle and now the opportunity to go up there?
Yeah, no, lots of things to say about that. I think most Cambridge fans will be like myself, I'm really excited at the prospect of going up there. I think for us, when you talk about third round, fourth round FA Cup ties, probably most Cambridge fans would say, well, like a London club, because obviously geographically it's really close, so we could take a load of people. Beyond that, Liverpool and Man United. But other than that, that sort of small group of numbers, I genuinely think, and I know other Cambridge fans have said the same, like Newcastle is the best that you could get. Like it's a classic not old, but a classic proper English football ground, a well-supported club, 40-odd thousand home fans for a game against a lowly League One club that could be seen as a banana skin. Like, well, I don't think we would have got that elsewhere in the Prem, to be honest. So yeah, I think everyone's really excited about the prospect of going up there and the occasion. In terms of the game itself, I imagine most of us look at it as essentially a free hit. If we lose, we were expected to lose. If we win, that's completely unexpected and would help out the club terrifically financially. I know a few fans share some sort of less positive thoughts that I have, which is nothing to do with Newcastle at all, but just in general, sort of the nature of the third round this year, the fact that they've scrapped replays, the fact that the games that have been chosen for TV are all a bit questionable in my eyes, apart from Swindon. I think they're on TV Friday night. So there's a few things there which are sort of came close to sort of, tainting the whole sort of experience of getting there. But I'm sure, like, once we were in Newcastle on Saturday, walking up the steps, stepping out on the ground, like all those sort of thoughts sort of go out of your head.
Are you surprised that the Newcastle Cambridge game is not on TV? Because I have to be honest, I am. I'm surprised. You've already touched on it. The fact that there are some questionable games on TV, and it does kind of raise the question of, we, and I'm sure the guys and the girls in the chat feel the same. You always feel a sense of magic when you think about the FA Cup and what it used to mean for us when we were younger, growing up. The FA Cup used to be and mean everything to us, and it used to be those magical ties. It was like the David versus Goliath, and the fact that you've got sometimes you had your non-league teams that would play a Premier League team or a Championship team, and it used to be a really big occasion, but. This in this sense, from what you've said, Jordan, the fact that you surprisingly got promoted from League Two, you're having a decent season on the back of getting that promotion, and then you get the tie at St James's Park under a new era for Newcastle. It's the perfect TV game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's hard to disagree with what you said there, Pete. Maybe some people might even say, given that Newcastle's form over the last few weeks, some people might say, there is a potential there for that to be the giant killing. Yeah, like I share your thoughts on the whole sort of magic surrounding the FA Cup, and that's very much a fan thing. I think if you're running a club, the magic of the cup is the money, really. Like Cambridge United aren't going to win the FA Cup. Like the whole point of getting beyond the first and second round is to milk that cash cow, and you get a Premier League team, fair enough. We will, we split the gate, so we will make a good bit of money from that. But you do think of all the other sort of add-ons, and you think, well, hang on, like it's not very often League One or a League Two club gets to this stage or gets a Premier League team. We had it in 2015 in the fourth round. We got Man United, and we kind of got all the trimmings that that time we were on TV for both games. We took them to a replay, but yeah, it does kind of sort of lose the magic surrounding kind of the logistics of your club and thinking like what the game could mean. Like how like this one game, if it had been on TV or if there'd been a replay, could significantly impact not just this season, but like the next 4 or 5 for us in terms of players that we could bring in or things that we can do to the club in general. Like the famous story after we played Man United in 2015 was they upgraded the toilets in the stands, which the newspapers loved. That we spent our Man United money on urinals, but it does take a little bit of the shine off. And I think when you see things like you saw today with Liverpool getting the semi-final sort of postponed because of illness, and you do find yourself sort of asking questions about the whole system, like why is the Carabao Cup having 2 legs for a semi-final, and the FA are saying that no, you can't have replays in the third round, knowing full well that a replay could set a club up for half a decade. The TV choices are just bizarre this time round. A friend of mine made a really good point that normally when it comes to the David versus Goliath games, TV tend to prefer them to be at the David grounds. So perhaps if this fixture was the other way around and you guys were traveling to Cambridge, we would have made it onto TV. But there are some odd choices. So I think Chesterfield, who are in the conference and have got Chelsea away, I'm pretty sure that's not on TV. But things like Everton Hull is on TV. Like who's going to watch that? Like who really wants to watch that? Or like Palace Millwall, like not exactly the most logical choices for games to go on TV. Like your Man United Villa, fair enough. I get why the BBC would put that on, but some of the others are questionable to say the least. So yeah, I thought this would have been a great game to have on TV. Could have had Shearer and Dublin doing the punditry and everything, but never mind.
Yeah, like you said, and you've just mentioned the 2 players as well. Shearer and Dublin would have been absolutely perfect. They've shared the BBC studios before. I just think they've missed a trick. I really do. And I didn't know all of the games that were on TV. And the fact that you've mentioned a couple of them, are very, very questionable. I have to be honest. Very, very questionable.
Apologies to any Everton or Hull fans that are watching this and are very excited to see their team on the BBC, but I'm pretty sure there's none there in the comments.
Yeah. Well, I'll apologise to the Hull fans. I'm not apologising to the Everton fans. They've got it in for us at the moment after this takeover, so I don't feel sorry for them at all, and I don't think there's a particular like between the fan bases at this moment in time, particularly because we had our game cancelled just before Christmas, and they're not happy with us. To say the least, but look, there's a couple of points in here I just wanted to make. Julie Baker's made a couple of really good points. I would always treat the cup with respect it deserves. A cup run could benefit NUFC's confidence wise and letting players rotate in the squad and gel. I think it's a great point, Julie, that you've made. I 100% agree with that, particularly because we're looking to bed in a number of players, fingers crossed, with a transfer window. If we can get that run and build some confidence and have maybe a belief that if we get through past Saturday and the draws go our way, that we could maybe progress. We did it the other year. Lockdown had an impact on that, where we eventually went out to Man City in the quarters. But who's to say we can't do that again? And she said, treat teams in the lower leagues with no respect at your peril. That is always the case. And we as Newcastle fans know that more than anybody else because of some of the ties that we've had in the past. So moving forward, just want to look at, from a Cambridge point of view, okay? And a number of Newcastle fans may not know too much about Cambridge. Now, I just wanted you to kind of join and talk about some of the players in your team. So who are some of the players that obviously helped you get that promotion and have helped you kind of stabilise yourself, sort of in the Premier League? Not in the Premier League, sorry, in League One at the moment. But am I right in thinking that there are a number of injuries at the moment for Cambridge, some of your first team players?
Yeah, we've got a few sort of injuries, sort of all in defence, really. Our club captain, our main centre back, picked up a nasty injury in August. He's not back yet, and our sort of other most senior defender has been out for the last couple of months and has just had surgery. So centre back is a real problematic issue for us at the moment, and it's kind of knocked on to other areas as well. So our left back has moved into the centre, and he's doing a fine job, but he is being missed in his sort of natural position. So yeah, a few injuries with defence has been going on for the last few weeks. I don't know if we'll be able to bring anyone in the transfer window before Saturday. I doubt it. Elsewhere on the pitch, we've got a couple of sort of questions around sort of attacking midfielders, around whether people will be fit or not. Wes Houlihan is one. I'm looking forward to talking about him in a sec, but I've got another lad called Shiloh Tracy, who we signed in the summer from Spurs, who will be out as well, which is a shame. Yeah, so we've got a few questions around injury on Saturday, but I think we'll probably have a pretty much the same lineup as the one that we had on Monday against Portsmouth, with the exception of Sam Smith, not that one, who got a red card on Monday.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I remember seeing that you'd had a red card against Portsmouth in the 0-0 draw, but yeah, didn't realise there was many injuries. I saw Shiloh Tracy as part of the squad, and he looked an interesting player. How has he done since he's moved from Spurs? How has he kind of settled in at Cambridge?
Yeah, he's done terrifically well, actually. He came on loan for the second half of last season and sort of had a bit part role from the bench. This season has been a starter and has really, really grown into being one of our most key players, especially going forward. There were questions at the start about his sort of defensive work. I think originally he was possibly even more of a centre forward than an attacking midfielder, but he's sort of been converted to play on the wing now. And formation wise, all season we've been playing a 4-2-3-1. And he's been one of those sort of free attacking midfielders. And yeah, there were questions about sort of him sort of tracking back and doing his defensive work. But the last couple of months, he has really started to improve on that. And yeah, his injuries come at a really bad point because he was just sort of hitting kind of peak, which is a shame. The formation, yeah, it'll be an interesting one actually playing Newcastle on Saturday, because I think our sort of formation and our tactics won't be too dissimilar to what we've been playing in League One this season. Like, we have essentially been playing an out of possession style of football, sort of surrender possession, let teams sort of come at us and then try and hit on the break. And we line up in that sort of 4-5-1, and it's five in midfield without the ball, and then three up top when we sort of break. And the key when we've been breaking is breaking with sort of speed to sort of get up to that lone striker. And Shiloh Tracy was one of the key factors in that. It's a really rapid player, but I think we might tweak the formation slightly on Saturday. I think we might go with more of a instead of having sort of an attacking sort of number 10 role, I think we will go with just the three sort of deeper central midfielders to try and be as compact as possible and try and frustrate.
Okay, interesting. So it's a shame because obviously you from a Newcastle point of view, we'd want to be playing the best Cambridge team possible. Really, so it's a shame that you've got a number of players out, but it's interesting that you play that style of football where you like to hit on the break, because that's the kind of style of football we play. In terms of, like, we used to, under the previous ownership and management, sit really, really deep and counter attack, but now we do like to press high up the ball, but certainly against certain teams, we like to kind of like sit in, hold opposition, and then when we win the ball, bang, we're gone and we're on the counter, and we've got players that can hurt on the counter. Whether they'll play on Saturday,
it could be a long 90 minutes if we're both sitting in.
Definitely. But obviously, we've got a big pitch. Obviously, big pitch, St James's Park, one of the biggest in the Premier League, width-wise. And we do like to use that to our benefit, and that's the one thing that I would say for away teams, particularly away teams from the lower divisions. Whenever we've played at the away ground first and had a replay, obviously in the old style, when they come to the kind of return fixture, that's when they tend to struggle, because the pitch is big and wide, and we tend to exploit that and really kind of put teams to the sword from that point of view. I'm just going to go really, really quickly because there's been some really good points in the chat that have been made. So Geordie Team for Life said, Jordan, just so you know, all your supporters, I think he is referring to, will be welcome in any bars or restaurants. Now, there's a picture. There's always Newcastle fans are fantastic for this, particularly on Twitter. Is that there's this picture of how close the bars are to St James's Park or to any stadium from the town centre to the ground, and Newcastle's is always the closest, and we've always got the most in terms of bars. So it is a real a real short walking distance. But the one thing that I will say is, unlike a lot of places, when you travel away from home, Newcastle are always so welcoming to away fans. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what away fans they are. They're welcome in any pub, and they will be welcomed in, and it will be exactly the same to Cambridge and then some. So you guys will be looked after 110%. Judy Baker said, you'll love it. Sadly, the nightlife is rubbish. No bars, jokes aside, enjoy. That is definitely not true. Newcastle's nightlife is the best in the country by a country mile. She's not telling the truth there. Liam's put a good point in there. Look how far Sutton went when they were in non-league. They beat the likes of Leeds United. That's absolutely right. And they had a really good run on the back of that. Julie, you're absolutely right. We're now up to 80 watching. Please hit the likes, hit that subscribe button. If we've got any new guys and girls in the chat for the first time, hit that subscribe button. We're on the march to 2000. We are not far away. We've had some fantastic content over Christmas, and I think we've been rewarded with that. People are subscribing. Again, we've got lots of members in the chat. Jeff, he's also asked the question. Jeff is one of our members. He's put Cambridge fans should get used to going up and being sent down. That's naughty, Jeff. That's a little bit naughty. I'm not happy about that. But yeah, that is Jeff. He's a great guy. Geordie Toon for life. If we win and go through the next round, I'd like to see Newcastle give Cambridge all the takings from the game. It would be a really nice gesture. I would 100% agree with that. I think that's a great shout, Geordie Toon for life. What are your thoughts, Jordan?
Yeah, absolutely. I would happily agree to that. I hear you guys aren't too short for cash these days, so I'm sure you wouldn't miss $100,000 or whatever it would be. But yeah, no, that would be a really lovely gesture. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something the club are probably thinking about. I know over the last couple of years there has been examples of Premier League clubs doing that. I think Chelsea did it recently, but I could be wrong. But no, that would be great, and that would really. Yeah, that would really help with the rest of our season and trying to stay up in League One and kind of mitigate some of the gripes we had with the lack of no replay and things like that. But yeah, no, some of those comments before about sort of welcoming Cambridge to the city is just terrific. Really looking forward to it. I'm actually coming up on the Friday, so any food or drink recommendations in the chat, please, that would be great. But we're kind of used to this season, sort of in League One, we're kind of used to the opposite with opposing fans, especially sort of those sort of bigger teams in League One that I was mentioning earlier in the call. If we play them and sort of upset them and get a result against them, which we've done a couple of times, we did it on Monday against Portsmouth. We see quite a salty side of opposing fans. So which is always fun. It's always fun to see people being wound up. So it's kind of a bit of a shock to the system seeing everyone being so nice and polite and welcoming. But I guess it's part of the reputation of Newcastle, isn't it? So yeah,
I agree. Newcastle fans are some of the most welcoming in the country, and that's why I say, me personally, I'm not from Newcastle, but I supported the club for nearly just shy of 30 years. And the one thing I do, I always feel at home when I go to Newcastle. I always put a message out when I'm traveling up to Newcastle, and I get just past the Angels of the North, and I know I'm there. I always feel like I'm home because the way people are treated up there. It's just not like anywhere else in the country that I've experienced. They're so welcoming, so polite, and no doubt that they'll be exactly the same come Saturday as well. There are one or two of the points. So Liam, just like many other Newcastle fans, follow various football outside the Premier League, and he said he's been to the Cambridge ground when they lost 3-2 to Leyton Orient. Was that this season?
No, we I can't remember. I think we did the double over Leyton Orient last year. So they're the league below, they're League Two. The M11 derby, some people call that one. I've got a gripe with Leyton Orient. Sort of mid-90s, they had a bit of a rep for taking players and managers from us. I imagine, Liam, that the ground hasn't changed much since you last visited. It's a bit of an aging lady, shall we say, in polite terms. The ground, it's got character, but it's certainly not a Premier League standard ground.
Fair play. The only issue we have with Leyton Orient is they gave us a journalist. They gave us a journalist called Luke Edwards that is not best well received in Newcastle for his stance on the takeover and how he treated the Newcastle fan base over that sort of 2 year wait or so. So yeah, or the 18-month wait. So yeah, we would like him to go back, but yeah. That's just my opinion. I'm sure that people in the chat would agree as well. Chris Hall, who would have joined us tonight, one of the loaded boys. He's not very well. I hope you feel better soon, Chris. Hopefully you feel better for tomorrow when we hit the fully loaded transfer show with Jordan Cronin, starting at 8:00. So yeah, best wishes to you. And we'll get back down to it. So We talked about the Cambridge players. Let's talk about, from your perspective, the Newcastle players. So, who are the players that really stand out for you? The ones that you know of, the ones that you've seen, the ones that you're genuinely worried about potentially starting at the weekend?
I don't want to sort of hover around the upset kind of talk too much, because I don't think it will happen. I think it will be quite a straightforward afternoon on Saturday for you. But the one that, one of the sort of threads that kind of feeds into that whole, maybe something might happen on Saturday upset, is the fact that your two lads, St. Maximan and Wilson, are potentially not playing. I know they've had injuries over the last couple of weeks. I'll be honest, I haven't checked if they're fit for Saturday. And to be honest, playing fantasy football, those two lads are pretty reliable on that as well. So those were the ones that I was sort of keen to see and keen to watch. I've got a horrible feeling that because it's going to be settled on the day, the fun of sort of maybe surviving the 90 and getting a draw will soon be sort of vanquished when, comes to extra time and Newcastle send on like some of the better players, someone like St. Maximan, who will just change the game like that. So those two are the obvious ones. There was lots of talk when we first got the draw against you guys about who could potentially sign for Newcastle before the game even kicks off. Yeah. Kieran Trippier's World Cup semi-final free kick goal has to be one of my all-time favourite moments as a football fan. So it'd be great to see him. Hopefully, he doesn't have too good a debut.
There's talk that because of the COVID restrictions that he might not be ready to play at the weekend. And if I'm honest, I don't think he will. I'll be surprised if he starts. I think from Kieran Trippier's point of view, I think they will wait for him to play the following weekend against Watford. We play Watford at home, which is a massive game, because if we beat Watford the following weekend, we go above them and out of the relegation zone. So for the first time in a very, very long time. I think I don't think he'll play. But yeah, it's the situation with Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson's actually got a torn calf muscle, so he's going to be out for probably 4 to 6 weeks. We probably won't see him until mid to end of February, if I'm honest with you. So he certainly won't be available. And ASM, I don't think they will risk. They did say he had another calf muscle injury as well. Then a day or two later said that it wasn't serious. So again, I think they are going to wait and have him ready and available for the Watford game, for sure. But just from my point of view, just before you continue with the Newcastle players, I just wanted to touch on one player that I don't think we touched on this, and I apologise if we did already. But you've got a striker at the moment that scored 11 goals this season in all competitions, and it's Joe Ironside. Now, I think you've got an interesting fact about Joe Ironside in the run up to the game at the weekend.
Oh, have I? All I was going to say is he's local to the area, sort of ish. Yeah. He's from Middlesbrough, so yeah, he's. I don't know the geography of the northeast that well, but I'm pretty sure they're close, right?
Not too far away at all.
So not too far away. Yeah, so he's had a terrific season. He's earlier in the call, you sort of asked like what was the key to sort of getting promoted last season, and really there was this sort of trio sort of up top. We had Houlihan in the hole, Paul Mullin up front, and Joe Ironside up front. And Paul Mullin took all the sort of the headlines. I think he scored something like 34 goals in all competitions last year. Wes Houlihan was pulling the strings. Even at 38 years of age, was just a cut above League Two. And actually, it's the same again this year. When he's fit enough to play, he's technically so good. But Joe Ironside last year kind of did the kind of did the unfashionable role. He's a big player. He's a target man. He's difficult to play against, and he really took the hits last year to free up the space for Mullin to score as many goals as he did. So I'm sure you can think of plenty of Newcastle sort of striking duos where one maybe scores more than the other, but wouldn't get as many without the other guy doing the work. So that was Joel Ironside last year. Then this year, in the summer, our manager Mark Bonner said pretty early doors, we're going into a different league. We have to sort of work within our limitations. We're going to have to change our style of play. And we went from being quite an attacking team to, like I was saying earlier, a more sort of out of possession defensive team that plays on the break. And a part of that is having someone who can just work up front on their own, which is what Joe Ironside's been doing this season. You can tell that defenders don't like him because he's the kind of striker that just doesn't tire or doesn't give up. He's not the quickest, he's not the most gifted or has the best touch, but he is just a presence. And it'll be really interesting to see, I don't know your centre-backs that well, but how that sort of matches up against a higher standard of defender, because in League One, it's quite telling. But yeah, no, Big Joey Ironside, lots of love for him.
I'll be honest with you, when you talked about a higher level of defending, I think a lot of people in the chat will probably question you on that. The reason being is because we've conceded 42 goals this season, which is the most in the Premier League. The only one that equals that is Norwich City, who are below us at the bottom of the table. So I don't know about necessarily the quality of defending. We're certainly trying to get a quality of defender or two in the January transfer window. But normally it would be Jamal Lascelles and Fabian Schär that would start. Whether they will start on Saturday, I'm not too sure. I think we might well see Kieran Clark make an appearance in our team, who has made a couple of calamitous mistakes that have cost goals and points ultimately this season. So, Big Joe may well be able to get in there and ruffle some feathers, that's for sure. But going back to the Newcastle players, you talked about ASM, Alan Maximin, you talked about Callum Wilson. Are there any other players in that team that you maybe know of, or you might be slightly worried about with regards to them causing you guys some problems?
I think I'm going to name yet another injured player, so apologies, but was it Willock, the lad you signed from Arsenal?
No, Willock,
yeah. I was a big fan of him. I saw him sort of play for Arsenal's youth team a few times. Again, he had a terrific end to last season, so I think that kind of player could cause us problems. But I have just seen that he's potentially injury doubt, so I should probably start listing some players that aren't injured.
I think you might be all right for the weekend. Actually, I think if I'm right, and people in the chat might be able to correct me, that the reason why he wasn't playing, I think, was COVID related, because we had a little bit of an outbreak. But on his Instagram, he seems to be out and about again, which says to me that he's out of isolation. So it could well be that he is available to play on Saturday. Now, he hasn't played for a while. Obviously he's been out, but also he has been massively out of form. As Newcastle fans will know, he had a fantastic end to the season. He beat Alan Shearer's goal scoring record in cumulative games at the back end of last season, and he's been a terrific player for us at the back end of the season. That's why we signed him, but he hasn't been the same player. Now, what was really interesting is that there was an article which you wouldn't have read in the Athletic with Chris Waff, who's joined the show and been on our show before, a very well-respected Newcastle journalist. And one thing he talked about is in the summer that he had COVID, and I think he had COVID quite bad. And I think that might be the reason why he might not be performing at the level that he should be, or what we would want him to. But he's going to still keep working away. I think it's a great game for him to come in on Saturday and play. So that's one to wait and see.
Yeah, I think without naming names, perhaps you could fill in the names there. But I do think your sort of wider players might be where the game will be sort of won and lost. you made a really good point earlier about the width of the pitch. One of the things we did in the summer was actually reduce the width of ours to help sort of play that compact game. We sort of the wide players that we have aren't what I would say sort of out and out wingers that can do both the defending and the attacking. They're more sort of attack minded. So I do think we're sort of a little bit lacking in that sort of offering your fullback, sort of offering out our fullbacks protection. So I wonder who you reckon, Pete, might be sort of playing in your wide areas on Saturday.
Well, for me, I think there's an opportunity for Miguel Miron to play out on the width. I mean, he's lightning quick. He can travel with the ball. He's a perfect foil for a counter attack. And with the lack of attacking players available, I think he's someone that could play potentially. As well as that, we have Ryan Fraser. Now, he did pick up a slight, I think, hamstring injury after the game against Manchester United on the 27th of December. It wasn't deemed to be serious. I think he'll be back fit, if not this weekend, for next weekend. But he's been playing very, very well for us since Eddie Howe come into the team, and since he's been given a regular spot on the team, I think he's performed really well. So
yeah, a bit of a forgotten man, isn't he? Because he was so instrumental at Bournemouth, and then kind of had sort of slipped under the radar a little bit. Well, for me, as someone that watches the Prem casually, I don't see the name crop up as much.
No, I mean, he came with a fantastic reputation of creating and getting assists for Bournemouth, and he was linked to some top teams before he joined us. But I always maintained, even last season when he was getting a little bit of stick from Newcastle fans, that he needed time. He joined us after not playing for pretty much 6 months, because obviously he stopped playing for Bournemouth. He didn't go back in the restart because his contract was out, and then he signed for us on a free. He barely had a pre-season. He needed pretty much this season to get back up to speed. But I remember saying to the Newcastle fans, I went to a lot of the pre-season friendlies, and he looked the sharpest out of all the players. He looked like he was really on it. And then it came to the beginning of the season, and the previous manager benched him again, and so there was clearly an issue there. And I think his interview since the previous manager left and Eddie Howe's come in, he's talked about him and Eddie Howe in a very positive light, and they've got a good relationship. So I think we're seeing the best of him now. 100%, but he's a player that could be used. Also, Jacob Murphy's been used more in attacking positions. So, and again, he's lightning quick. He can travel with the ball. So that's where Eddie Howe might look to exploit you guys for sure. But at this point now, I think it's only fair to get some stats, and as the regular watchers know, those Newcastle fans that watch the show, there's only really one way to allow Keith Roll to enter to give us some stats. Here he is.
Happy New Year.
What an intro.
It is. It's a special intro for Keith, the Statman Keith, the main man, and a welcome addition to Away Days. How are you, Keith? You okay?
Yeah, I'm keeping well. Thank you, Pete. Obviously, great news yesterday with the signing, or the signing that's coming up. But I wanted to say a few words, if I could, if that's all right with you, in tribute of David Harrison, because I actually found out when I was watching Loaded midway through last night about Kieran Trippier, and then I thought I'd check Twitter, and then I got the news. So I sort of went from a massive high on the show to the news, and I was in massive shock. I met David a few times last year at a few of the events, and he was always a real gentleman. He made everybody feel welcome. And I started enjoying watching him on the Toon Review with Paul, and he was in his element on that show. He was very knowledgeable. So my condolences at this time are his family and his thoughts. He was a wonderful man. Thank you.
Here. Fantastic, Keith, and well said. Obviously, Jordan won't be aware, but we lost Dave Harrison, who's a very respected member of the fan base, was part of Loaded HQ on a number of shows and podcasts. As Keith said, he was a part of Paul from Toon Reviews, Newcastle podcast, and many others, but very well liked, very well respected member of the Newcastle kind of community on social media. And yeah, we unfortunately lost him yesterday. So it's been a bit of a sad sort of 24 hours hearing that news. So fantastic tribute, Keith, massively appreciated. And we all kind of, we all echo your thoughts and your words on that. So well done for that.
Thank you.
Stats. Now, it's not a fixture that's regularly out there, that we don't normally play Cambridge or certainly more recently. But are there any stats out there?
Yes. Yes, I've got 6 to 8 Pete's stats. Really tough to find. But Cambridge and Newcastle did go through a spell of playing each other quite often. But I'd say this between the late 70s, 78, sort of 93. So that was when they were both sort of flip-flopping between divisions, between like the second for the old second division. And as I say, the record overall is they've played each other 16 times. Cambridge have won 4 matches against Newcastle in that fixture. They've drawn 3, but they've lost 9. Now, it has to be said that those 4 wins have came at the Abbey Stadium. The record at St James's doesn't read so well. It's for Cambridge fans. It's no wins, 1 draw, and 7 defeats.
Lovely.
And believe it or not, Newcastle and Cambridge have never played each other in cup competition in the league or the FA Cup. It's all been in the league, in the old second division. Wow. And the last game, I'll say this, the last win for Cambridge came at the Abbey Stadium, 1-0 in the 83-84 season, which was the old "we're going up" season with Keegan, Beardsley and Waddle, believe it or not. So Cambridge did amazingly beating that Newcastle team.
I wondered if you were going to mention this, but were you going to mention our run going into that game?
I didn't have enough time to look for that back, but please enlighten me.
1983-84, we went 31 games without a victory.
Wow.
The 32nd game was that win against Newcastle. So yeah, like you say, considering that you went up that year, it's pretty crazy. And I think we had that record of games without a win for quite a while. I think Derby took it a few years ago, that terrible season they were in the Prem. But yeah, I wondered if you were gonna mention that one.
Famous win for Cambridge, a marvellous win. The last game of the fixtures that Newcastle and Cambridge played was the 92-93 season, the promotion season. We all remember that one, Pete. And Newcastle winning 3-0, I believe, at the Abbey Stadium. Andy Cole amongst the goal scorers in that game. And again, one of the biggest scores in the team. It was a double that season for Newcastle, winning 4-1 at St James's earlier in the season, which was the biggest win in that fixture.
Nice. One of the comments you flashed up, Pete, was from a lad called Chris who said that he liked my shirt. This shirt is from that 92-93 season, so I wore it especially.
No, absolutely spot on. I'll try and get that comment out. But Actually, Chris has responded not to that, but he said, Jordan, don't worry, we celebrate when other teams score. You'll be warmly welcomed on Saturday. And he's absolutely right. Me and Chris went to the Leicester game at the King Power when we lost 4-0, and I think, you know, being from Leicester myself, the Leicester fans were completely stunned and actually shocked that the second, third, and fourth goals, when they went in, the Newcastle fans actually cheered louder than the home fans did, and it kind of like they were celebrating, but looking at us because we were celebrating harder than them, and then it kind of made them stop celebrating because they didn't really know what was going on. But yeah, we tend to do that just because we are extremely happy that we've got new owners and we're just kind of living life right now. But yeah, that's a great point from Chris there. But yeah, fantastic stats as always, Keith. Thank you very much, and some additional stats from Jordan in there from a Cambridge point of view. We have a knack at Newcastle of being that team that ends up breaking a negative
Someone's
run.
Yeah,
we did it last season with Sheffield United. We hadn't won in 20. We went to Bramall Lane and we gifted them a 1-0 win. We have that knack of doing that.
It's that Geordie hospitality you were talking about, mate.
Of course. We just don't want to disappoint. We don't want to send anyone home disappointed. That's all. But look, we'll get into some predictions now. So we'll start with you, Keith. The game on Saturday, obviously, we don't know who's going to start. We know from the conversation earlier from Jordan that Cambridge have got some injuries themselves. What do you think the score will be come 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon?
Well, I'm just hoping. I'm hoping that the break with the COVID for Newcastle doesn't play a part. I think. You know, it isn't too long since we played Man United, but you just never know what that might have done, disrupting the rhythm. It might have the opposite effect and give them a big bump. You know, it might in the right direction. You know, it might have done them well to have that little break in between those tough fixtures, and that's what I'm hopeful for. Again, I'm not hoping again for another like a draw. If you remember, a few years ago we played Oxford, the big university team, and we had to go to a replay, and Alan St. Maximum had to get us out of in that one with a sublime goal. So
don't forget the famous helicopter celebration as well in the away end. I don't think anyone.
Yeah, match of the day didn't miss it. That's for sure. You know,
that's true.
Who knows?
Yeah, I'm quite confident for the first time this season. I think it'll, you know, I don't expect Newcastle to blow Cambridge out the park. I think there'll be a spirited display from Cambridge, but I'm thinking maybe a 2-0 or a 2-1 or a 3-1 to Newcastle.
Okay, no, interesting. Any scorers for Newcastle? Obviously, we don't know who's going to start, but would you like to wager a guess potentially?
It could be a good game for Dwight Gale. You know, coming on. He just hasn't really had his chance, really, and in the past when he has came on in little short bouts, if you remember the end of the 2019-20 season, after the first lockdown, he had a little run together and he put a few goals in, and you know there are times when he, particularly against lower league teams, he does put himself about a bit. So maybe Dwight Gale if he plays. But I agree with what you were saying earlier, Pete. Alan St. Maximum, sorry, Miggy. If Miggy plays, this could be a good game for him. You know, he got his confidence up a few years ago in Newcastle's Cup run, so why not against Cambridge?
No, great points, and I agree. Would be a great game for one or two players in there. Jordan, from the opposition's perspective, how do you see this game going come 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, I've been telling myself all week, including right up until before this call started, to sort of not go too far down the rabbit hole of trying to find omens that might suggest we might upset the odds. It's I guess as a fan, being that sort of that lower club coming to the bigger club, you know, there is always going to be a small part of you that's like, oh, could something happen? Could anything happen? the fact, like I was saying earlier, like the fact that it has to be settled on the day really really kind of sort of has thrown it a little bit, because it's on one hand I think, oh well, if we can sort of keep it tight and survive the 90, then surely Newcastle have the quality to kill it off in extra time. But then there's another little devil on the other side going, no, but what are they like at taking penalties? Could we shithouse our way to a penalty shootout and somehow scrape a win that way? I think in reality, I think Newcastle will probably have too much for us. And actually, Keith mentioned Gale just then. I think some of your sort of maybe fringer players might be better suited against playing us. Someone like Gale, physical presence up top, could probably sort of bully one of our centre halves who's quite is sort of young and a bit inexperienced. So I think it will probably be 3-1 to Newcastle. A friend of mine is adamant that we'll score first, so perhaps that might be the story of the day. We somehow sort of surprise everyone with an early goal, and then it sort of reverts to the script, as it were.
Wow, interesting. Okay, I think it's the first time I'm going into an FA Cup tie with a little bit of confidence. It helps that we're at home, even though we've got our injury problems. I think that there are players that are playing for their futures at Newcastle. Sean Longstaff is one of them. Dwight Gale's another. Even potentially the likes of Miggy Almiron, who may not play a lot of football in the first team, with the supposed types of players that are going to be coming in. So I think they're going to really want to put a performance on. But I do think that we'll win. I was going to say sort of 2-0, but I didn't realise how bad your defensive problems were. So I'll probably say 3-0 to Newcastle. But again, I don't think it'll be an absolute domination. We don't do that as a team anyway. We don't really go to a team and really dominate. I think you'll have chances in the game. I think you'll have opportunities. You've talked about Big Joe Ironside, 11 goals this season in League One. He may come up and really sort of ruffle some feathers with Kieran Clark. If I was Joe Ironside, I'd be sticking on Kieran Clark all day long, because he's going to give you a chance. So I'll say 3-0. You know what? I'll say 3-1, because I think Big Joe might get a goal. Not the Big Joe that we know and love, the Brazilian Joe Linton, but it's I think you might get a goal. So I'll go 3-1. I'll go 3-1. I think that's fair. You guys get to celebrate a goal. You'll get plenty of drink before and after the game. Lots of support and friendliness from the Newcastle fans. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, we go into the next round and everybody's happy. Hopefully, if our club gives you guys the gate money or give you some money that can really kind of help your club progress. So fingers crossed for that. But look, I think we're there. I think we're about there. Thank you so much to Keith with your stats, joining us in the show. Pleasure as always. And of course, massive thanks to you, Jordan, Under the Abbey Stand podcast. If you're not following Under the Abbey Stand podcast, give it a follow. On my tweets out, we've tagged the podcast. Give them plenty of support. Enjoy the game, Jordan, on Saturday. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the atmosphere. Enjoy the friendliness that the Geordies always give to away fans. And you know what? Best of luck to the season for you.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I'll be watching very, very closely when you guys play Sunderland again.
At the Stadium of Light, we'll be cheering you on at the Stadium of Light, Jordan.
No, thank you so much for having me on, guys. It's been a pleasure, and thank you to all those that have left really nice messages in the comments. I'm just having a look now. Really looking forward to Saturday. It's like I was saying, can't believe it's actually happening. We're going to be there in person, so it's kind of a bit of a surprise. But no, thank you very much for having me on, and all the best for the rest of your season, starting from 5 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. And the same to you. But massive thanks to everyone in the chat. fantastic questions as always. As Jordan's just said, massive support to Jordan, as we always do with away days. And we look forward to the game on Saturday. Finally, some football after a couple of games of ours got postponed. But as always, you guys take care. We will be back tomorrow night, the big one. The fully loaded transfer show. Jordan Cronin's going to be back 8 o'clock. Lots to discuss. Lots of new players to discuss as well, and a few updates. And there'll be some information coming from over the pond in France from our French journalist Lee Davey. He'll be back, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that Trippier deal will be done and we can celebrate our first signing under the new era. But until then, you guys take care, have a good one, and we will speak to you soon. And as always, we do love playing away. Take care, guys.
Take care.